Do top performers work hard? This was a confusing one for me when I first started making money online a couple years ago. It's what we've always been told, right? You do more hours, more inputs, more pushing, because more is better. This is the traditional way of viewing hard work. Just keep doing things, keep looking busy, keep clicking buttons. In the next wave of creatives, this traditional way of thinking is catastrophic. If you actually take a look at some of the most influential creators across history, you will find a different story. You'll actually find this fascination with the mind, this foundational fascination with the mind. Let's take a look at Nikola Tesla, for example, okay? This is where it gets interesting. Nikola Tesla, the same guy who said, if you want to know the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay, what does that mean though, right? That might not make sense right now. And it didn't really make sense to me at first. But what does he mean by that? Let's get into it. Okay? Nikola Tesla, from being a founding father to modern electricity, how we operate today, to conceptualizing this idea of the cell phone at the turn of 1900 there, 100 plus years before it would even come to light, the cell phone. He was talking about this idea of a device, a small device where you would have instant communication with someone, anyone across the world. So you can think of the kind of scrutiny that he was getting by throwing ideas like that around 100 plus years ago, right? This guy had a remote control boat. He put together a remote control boat 100 plus years ago. So this guy was different, to say the least. When Tesla was in university, his professors were literally concerned about his life, about him dying from his work ethic. He wouldn't eat very much. He would barely eat. He would barely sleep. He would stay up until the early morning hours working on his studies, his inventions, and his professors were literally concerned about him dying because of this. So from the outside, this guy seemed to be one of the hardest workers of all time, right? And it kind of contradicts what I'm saying here, the topic of this video, about it not really being about hard work. Okay. But this guy, Tesla, looked like one of the hardest workers. But let's get into what he has to say about it directly. Nikola Tesla, in his own words, okay? So he sounds like quite the hard worker here, but in his autobiography, My Inventions, okay, his autobiography, this is his own words. It's a book called My Inventions, really nice book. And in his book here, Tesla spoke directly about his work ethic. So here's what he said. I am credited with being one of the hardest workers, and perhaps I am. If thought is the equivalent of labor, for I have devoted almost all of my waking hours. Okay. Interesting. But, he says, if work is interpreted to be a definite performance in a specified time according to a rigid rule, then I may be the worst of idlers. So he's saying if work can be defined as thought, thinking, then I'm one of the hardest workers. If work is defined as some specific task and you clock in and clock out in a certain time period, he said, then I was the worst of workers. Okay, interesting. Interesting. I hope you're liking this. Now, listen to this next part. He says, every effort under compulsion demands a sacrifice of life energy. Interesting. And I want you to keep that quote in mind that we talked about earlier. Nikola Tesla saying, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. He's saying here, every effort under compulsion, the things that you're doing under compulsion that you don't want to do, that take you out of that flow state, those things demand a sacrifice of life energy, and he understood this. So he said here, I never paid such a price. On the contrary, I thrived on my thoughts. He says, I have thrived on my thoughts. So one of the hardest workers in history. I mean, you look at this guy's resume and the things that he did, the ideas that he had, things that are just way before his time. One of the hardest workers gives credit to his thoughts. Interesting, man, right? And another thing that Tesla speaks about in his autobiography, in his own words, that he never actually rushed into the doing. He never rushed into the actual work. In fact, he would use his imagination to put all of his inventions together in here first before he put anything together out here. He didn't need to write anything down. He didn't need to build anything. He would put it together in here. He would test things. He would make corrections. He said he would build it in here so he knew that he could build it out here. So he used his imagination in this way. But that's a topic for another video. The topic of this video is, do top performers work hard? Well, Tesla here, one of the hardest workers, gives his credit to his thoughts. Interesting.